again, I'm Carlton Sharp, pastor of Faith Christian Center Church, right here in Beaumont, Texas. And we're here on what's happening in our neighborhood. And today, my special guest is Dr. Margot Gage. Welcome, Doc.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Dr. Margot Gage, and I'm assistant professor at Lamar University, and I'm also the director of Young Americans Overseas.
Hold up, Doc. Hold up. You look a little young to be a professor.
Don't let these looks fool you. I have gray hairs. I do.
I mean, you still look like you're 17.
No.
Don't tell you.
No, I won't. I never do.
Hey, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Again.
Okay.
What's your connections with the area?
Okay. Well, I was born in Austin, and I spent many years in Colorado, but my mother was born here in Beaumont, Texas. She went to French High School.
Whoa, a buffalo. French buffalo.
Okay, yeah. So I do have some relatives out here, and this is my first time being here as an adult and getting to learn about the city.
Now, you are the director of YAO. So what is YAO?
YAO is the first veteran housing complex in Jefferson County. We assist post 9/11 veterans looking for their relaunch who come home to get a restart. We also help people in general. We help young people, educate them to try to travel around the world. Another thing we do, and then we try to get different community programs and events going, like, for example, the Veteran Fest, what we just had.
So one of the things that you might be asking, well, what is YAO? Is Young Americans Overseas. And so you assist those Americans who are overseas to do what?
We provide them with their own private room in a housing complex, and they have everything, all of their things taken care of, and we link them to different partners that we have in the community, such as the Military Veteran Peer Network, and that's a nationwide network of veterans who are trained to come together to help veterans in need.
Good. Now, you mentioned earlier about the Veterans Fest that you had in August. I mean, tell us a little bit about that. How did that come about?
The Veteran Fest, it was the second time that we did that. It was the largest Veteran Fest that we had. It was the largest pinning of Vietnam veterans in Southeast Texas ever in the history of Southeast Texas.
Now, again, I mean, we have novices that's watching today, and when you talk about pin, you talk about giving them a pin or...
No. Actually, they get awards from the Department of Defense, and they're pinned on to their outfit, the awards. The Department of Defense flew out, actually, a guest speaker, a colonel, to address the crowd, and we made it just a big welcome home party for veterans.
And this was the largest that you've seen the last couple of years.
Right, this was the largest that we've ever put on, and we had over 100 veterans who were pinned, so that's a record number for Southeast Texas.
Wow. Okay, so not only that, but you talk about you have a housing complex for the veterans.
Right. We have a housing complex. It's for veterans and non-veterans, but veterans are our target population because we don't want the people who went and served overseas to come home to live on the streets. Veteran homelessness is a big problem, especially in Southeast Texas, especially after Harvey. We have tent cities behind the VA, and there's no place for these guys to go. Especially if they are, have no jobs, no skills, because they might have been a young person right out of high school when they enlist and they get back. They're far behind other peers who went from high school straight into the workforce. So this is a safe place for them to reinvent themselves.
Wow. Now, also with the Veterans Complex, where is it located?
It's located in the Cable neighborhood, so that's right on the corner of Linson and Live Oak. It's the big white housing complex fenced in. And across the street from that, we're building Texas' first women veteran and first responder park.
Yeah. And so who can come to the complex, and I mean, how many beds are there, and
Well, who comes to the complex is the residents, because you have to think of it's their home. So it's not that we have people just coming and going. It's not like a looky-loo. It's not a zoo. So just the veterans, or if you have an appointment, like if you need to speak with me about something, we make an appointment. We have had dignitaries there. We've had the mayor of Beaumont. She's visited. We've had the VA director, homeless director, Louis Paulino, who has visited. We have had Congressman Randy Weber visited. Senator Corinne has sent his regional director out. We've had a lot of big name people come to the complex.
And of course, you always need support, additional support.
Right, you do. you do. But we are not getting that from the VA as we had hoped by now, because we're 2 years into this, we would have been doing it, been receiving it. So that means that we're not able to help the people most that really need it. So we have something called the HUD-VAT program in Beaumont. So that means that if a veteran might come homeless, they can go to the VA and sign up to get a housing voucher. But in between that period, when they're waiting in line for their housing voucher, have been approved for their housing voucher, they're on their own. So we could be a place for them to come and go, but the VA still has not funded that turbulent time when they're either waiting in limbo, basically. So they need a bridge for that.
So actually, if they're waiting, do they actually become homeless at that point?
No, they already are homeless. Okay. So they're coming because they want to have a home. Okay. So they get their voucher from VA. It's a wait, but they get their voucher. But their voucher, it takes a moment before it kicks in. It could take, however long it takes for them to find. And then it depends on housing, if they can find housing. Exactly. There's a lot of factors that go into that in determining whether or not they can use the voucher. There is. And so, we have attempted to get funding for that, but so far we've been unsuccessful to help provide them that bridge. Now, do you provide counseling? No, we don't do any counseling service on site. That's what the Military Veteran Peer Network is for. Okay. Now, tell us about the women's veterans and first responders part that you. Right. So, women veterans is one of the fastest growing veteran population, especially African American women. They are becoming veterans in high numbers. And a lot of people don't realize that a veteran and a first responder can look like their mom. So we don't connect a woman to uniform as often. And so that park is meant to raise awareness about the women who go out and serve. In the state of Texas, you don't have one that's 100% dedicated to women. You do have one in DC. We have, sometimes you see at a park, they might have one woman statue or one little plaque on the ground, but it's really a very male-dominated park. So we are trying to highlight some of the women who've done great things. We have already we have notable women. We have some of our own homegrown women, like Zena Stevens, who's agreed to take part. When we had the groundbreaking, she was there. She passed through. You have Ann Huff, first female fire chief of Beaumont. She's already agreed to take part. Out of state, we have Senator Tammy Duckworth. She's the first female to have a baby on the Congress floor. She agreed to take part. And Brenda Bergman, she's the first woman to receive the White House Fellowship Award. She served at Ground Zero. She's also agreed to take part. Now, when you say take part, what do you mean by that? To have their name recognized in the park, to help, to be a part of the park, to show others that it's needed. So, for example, when we had the groundbreaking ceremony, all of the women came out. They made it into a beautiful day. Ann Huff had the fire trucks come out with huge flag, American flag in the backdrop hanging from the fire trucks. That was really nice. The first female of Beaumont was there. The mayor of Beaumont was there. So it was a really beautiful day for women. So you just have to imagine that you have all of these women who want others to know that, hey, we're here too. Especially in the Marines, that the last thing you think is that you have a women Marines, but we do. Right here in Beaumont. That would be the last armed forces services that I believe that women would go into. Right. As a Marine. Right. So they're not just your cooks. Wow. They're out there saving lives right alongside the men. And so that's what this park, it's very unique to the state of Texas and also to our region. That's what this park aims to do. Now, veterans are very personal to you because, your family background. So tell us a little bit about that. Right. My father was an Air Force veteran. I have a number of aunts and uncles who were Vietnam veterans. And my aunt was recognized at the Veteran Fest. Actually,
wow.
she did it via FaceTime because she lives far away.
Technology.
So she was there. And my husband is a Dutch Air Force veteran, so I've never served in the military, but this is my way to contribute to the military.
Now, when I spoke to you before, you said you were talking about how this is your service because your father actually went into the military. Tell us a little bit about that, because you made a statement before.
Right. I said that my father he served so that I don't have to. He would always say that to me. So I went to university, and that's what I did.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And we have so many veterans out there today who may be watching today. They actually serve so that we don't have to serve, you know? Because hey, listen, I salute all of you who serve. I mean, we couldn't have the freedoms we have now if it weren't for men and women who went to the service to give this right that we have.
Right, and we don't think about that oftentimes because we're going about our daily lives and we're buying, shopping, and buying at Starbucks and whatever. But it's absolutely true, and that's what we're hoping, that we can raise awareness about the situation with the housing complex. We're hoping that the VA, they do endorse the facility.
Yeah.
We're hoping that eventually we will get the funding that's definitely needed in our region.
But now, those watching they could donate to the project.
It is a 501c3, so they could donate, and we do, for all donations, I don't take a salary. It goes 100% to helping the veterans. If they're donating to the park, it goes 100% to the park. I'm a professor at Needed. I do it because I want to. So, for example, with the Veteran Fest, we raise funds, and all that money is going to build the fence 100%.
Wow,
I do it volunteer.
And listen, so you can go online right now to YoungAmericans.overseas.org. I think the website is right there on your screen. And there's a donate button there, and you can click that donate button, follow the simple instructions, and you can donate into this organization, the Young Americans Overseas Project, to help our local veterans in time of need. So that, they can actually do it online.
Yes, they can.
But if they want to send it through mail, they can send it to?
They can send it to 2390 Linton. It's also on the website, the address. They wanted to mail a check, that's also fine, in Beaumont, Texas.
Good. Now, you also did something recently, Social Justice Symposium. Tell us a little about that.
Right. This was the first social justice symposium in the history of Mar University. And so I went and I organized that. We invited a number of people and had a panel discussion. We spoke about women in politics, where Adriana Bell came and did that. We also had a criminal justice reform panel and then a public health panel as well. It was 150 attendees what we had.
So let's talk about the women in politics real quick, because I've seen over this past election cycle more women getting involved in the political aspect of it because of what we see.
Right, exactly. We have, and actually I've done research on women in politics, and what we see is that women are more likely to work across party lines. When you have more women in politics, you see better population health. That's also because a lot of their backers or supporters are for health type of topics, so then they're more in tune to needing past these types of health measures. So there's overwhelmingly positive things when you get a woman in office. The problem is to get a woman to want to run. And then, because a lot of times it's so abstract for us Americans to see a woman who is
in authority.
Yes, but once we get over that hump and we actually get in office and we let her work, we're actually quite satisfied with that, because we're used to seeing women taking care of us. So it's just that first hurdle of getting her in there, which is the tough part.
And that's one of the things I was going to mention, because one, they don't have the issues that men have with trying to communicate with one another, especially across party lines, because, hey, listen, we know that there's better good for all of us out there. Two, most of them may be mothers.
Yes.
So, of course, that nurturing part of it comes into, but also they're great leaders.
Right, we are.
Yes, we are.
So we'll see what happens in the coming time, but I think that you say we have seen an increase in the number of women running for office, and I hope that that continues. We've also seen an increase in the number of veterans running for office.
That's true. Yeah.
And so I think that this is all good for American society to help advance us, to start getting a diverse type of person at the table. Because when you're making decisions about, all of America, you want it to reflect all of us.
That's the truth. And listen, let's just throw a pin in here. No, if you haven't voted, go and vote, because your vote matters. It's so important that you get out and vote. I am pushing folk to go and vote because it's so important. I mean, because some people sit back and think that, well, it really doesn't matter who gets in office because they all work it.
Yeah, it does matter that your voice is heard, and it's not just about go vote for the president, it's also with these other small positions, like who's your judge, because those things matter whenever, with criminal justice reform, who's on city council, those things matter. And we're not here to say who you go vote for, but that you go vote. Because a lot of people not too long ago to be able to vote, right? So it does matter.
Yes. Now, also, you did a public health aspect of this symposium. Tell us about that.
Right. Yale University did a study about the air quality in Beaumont.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's a pilot study. But what they found was that the air quality is not, it needs to be worked on.
Whoa.
So, but it's a pilot study, so we need to look at, we need to, go take a better look at the results. But they also did find a higher rate of COPD in Vermont. So Lamar is going to take a better look to see what's going on together with Yale with the air quality here.
So how long did they, how much time did they put in for this study?
They put in 5 days. They measured the air quality for 5 days, and in that 5-day time, there's a monitor down in the fence line communities, and a lot of times that monitor wasn't working. It's supposed to be working, and it wasn't working. So we need to investigate, why is this monitor not working? That's so close to the fence line community.
Now, when you say fence line community,
so that's the Charlton Pollard, so right outside of the refineries.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I'm sure that's part of the air quality issues because, of all our refineries in this area.
Probably so. A lot of industry here. Yes. So it's a very touchy subject because the industry is a big economic driver in our community, so that keeps money here, but then you also have the environment to think of. So we have to find that balance and an objective look to just see what the results and the numbers show.
Okay, so that was within politics, the public health, air quality, and the third thing was what?
The criminal justice reform.
Criminal justice system. Talk to us about that.
Well, we had different professors come in and speak about the need for criminal justice reform. The fact that a lot of things are unfair of how things are being handled. So again, that goes back to voting. So if you want reform, you need to vote for those officials and judges who are open to reforms. A lot of our sentencing in America is outdated.
Yeah.
We are one of the number one, we put people in prison. Like we have not the biggest population on the earth, but we put the largest amount of people in prison, typically people of color. So we need to go back and reevaluate our prison guidelines because it's from the ancient era, which isn't relevant for today whatsoever, especially with, for example, I don't know how far you want me to go with that, but what's considered Schedule I and not. We have, for example, marijuana, which is in the same classification as drugs as crack, cocaine, and heroin, where you have marijuana, which in different states like Colorado, California, it's legal, but you have people in prison serving 20 plus years for marijuana charges. So this is just disproportionate. So there comes a time when we need reform.
Well, prison has become big business.
It is a big business, yes.
That's when you really look at it, I mean, for an inmate to be in prison, there's a dollar amount associated with that person.
Right. When you think that a can of tuna, if you want to buy a can of tuna in prison, costs $6.
Wow.
I mean, come on. And these guys are working for maybe like 1 cent an hour. There's a huge disbalance. And we have the documentary.
$6 for tuna?
For tuna, yeah. The documentary by. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what kind of tuna that is. I doubt it's organic. But the very great, interesting documentary is Ava DuVernay's 13, which can give you an idea of how our prison system has changed especially since she did it from when the 13th Amendment chronicling from then till now. Yeah. But you can especially see with the war on drugs, which was a failure, war on drugs. We should actually have a war on reform is what we need. We have people like Richard Branson, the Virgin Airline guys. Yeah. He's a real big proponent on that. So we're starting to get big names start to see the human rights as the global human rights has put a warning on the U.S. of how we are treating our own citizens. So that's the outside looking in about what's going on. What we are seeing is also medical benefits for marijuana. It helps with Alzheimer's. It helps with a number for AIDS patients. It helps with cancer patients. So you're seeing a number of things because actually we have something called the endocannabinoid system, which is naturally in our body, endocannabinoids. That's why it works for us. So how can you outlaw something in such a harsh penalty of why? And if you look at the history of why it was outlawed, alcohol prohibition stopped, they needed something new. As a man called Henry Allenser took a special, he went specially after the marijuana users because why? Mexicans were bringing it in, and it was an immigration problem, and they were bringing that in, and that's why they wanted to stop. But when you look at even our Constitution, it was grown on what plant? Do you know?
No.
The hemp plant. It was from presidents grew hemp.
I was going to say, well, I did smoke a little bit of it, but
but seriously, presidents grew hemp. It was a big cash crop producer, hemp. But it was textiles big, and we used it as paper back then. Wow. So we had this entire shift across America, so it's time for that to be over.
Now, I think you did a symposium on this, right? On this topic, or you had something that I think it's on the news.
I teach a class.
Yeah, you teach. Okay, we're not gonna go into all the details today on this show, but you do teach a class on it.
I teach a class on it, yes. Okay. And a lot of people don't know. Louisiana State University has a grow center. The University of Mississippi has a grow center and had for many, many years. They were the only ones to be allowed to grow it. I think they started back in the 80s. Louisiana just got theirs. We have grow center out in Texas, so even here we have it. Yes. So when you have these grow centers and the universities doing, how can you then say to these people behind bars for all these years that that's okay and nobody's doing anything about it? But we do have in California where they're a model state where they are trying to champion. They're starting to reverse those sentences and expunge the records of people who got in trouble for marijuana because it's very double.
Well, again, I go back to the thought I had earlier about big business. It's big business. You know, it really is. It really is big business. So, Doc, are you planning on doing any of these activities against Veterans Fest next year? I mean, is that in the planning process right now?
Well, everything is too early to tell. You know, I'm a very busy person, but, you know, we'll see how it's going. But I definitely, with the Social Justice Symposium, I definitely would like to keep that going. With the Veteran Fest, I beat, like, it was a record number in the history of Southeast Texas. So how do you top that? So that's something I have to consider.
She can top it again. Look, there's more than 100 veterans in our area, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I just have to consider those things. But it was a beautiful day, and everything was free. And it was free because of businesses in the community who helped to contribute to make it a beautiful day for those veterans. So that's nice.
And the Women's Veterans First Responders Park?
That's going to be opening very soon. We have already Willie Nelson's granddaughter who's agreed to come perform when we do the grand opening of that park. So it first starts with getting a fence, and so we need to keep collecting the funds to get the right kind of fence.
Again, she needs a fence. You can go on her website, youngamericansoverseas.org, and there's a donate button right there on her screen, and you just click that donate button and give toward fence.
The fence fund, yes.
The fence fund.
It's on there, fence fund.
Fence fund. Yeah. And then also, what about volunteers? You need volunteers.
Somebody, if they know how to build a fence, you know, if they want to come out and help once we get those funds, or if they have other qualities, you know, just let me know. You know, we can either work. We're just let us know.
Well, here's an idea. Those of you who are watching today, you might have a fence company, and you want to support our veterans. Here's a way to support our veterans. Why don't you donate, build a fence at the complex?
Why not? That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And everybody who makes a donation and every company who works with us, they're going to be put on the sign that's a permanent fixture in the park. So they're going to be recognized in that way.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Dr. Gage for coming today to share with us all of this great information about Young Americans Overseas, the Veterans Fest, the park, the Women's Veterans and First Responders Park. Talked about the relaunch of veterans, to help veterans relaunch in their lives. The social justice reform symposium that she had with all the different topics. And listen, I'm so grateful that she came to talk about those things today. Hey, listen, if you want more information, let's put her website back on the screen again. There's the website again that you can go to, youngamericansoverseas.org. Here's her, what else you have? Her telephone number. Here's the telephone number that you can have to call her. And there it is right there. Look, it just popped up. Give her a call. Want to volunteer. If you want to donate to the Young Americans Overseas mission and the veterans here in our area, there's the website again. Thank you for joining us. I want to thank Dr. Gage again, and thank you for joining us on what's happening in our neighborhood. And we will see you next time on our broadcast.